Hi, everyone. I'm Keely. I'm one of the founders of WorkSpark. We help professionals like you fix your resume, ace interviews, network effectively to land the right job fast in Canada. You can reignite your career with WorkSpark, and you can start today by checking out our webinar on networking at a conference. Hi, everyone. I'm Keely, and this is Networking Essentials from WorkSpark. We are here today to chat a little bit about how to get started with networking, particularly at a conference. So, attending conferences can be really exciting. It's a fantastic opportunity to meet new people, learn about trends in your industry, get exposed to things like new technology, but it can also be very, very intimidating. And so today we wanted to share some networking basics with the specific context of attending a conference, making sure that you're able to strategize, making sure that you have a sense of how to approach this conference to get the most out of it, and to leave the conference with a larger network, with some new folks that you can reach out to, that you can learn from, and that might even have job opportunities for you someday. So we're going to keep this quick, but go through a few important pieces today. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about some networking basics, and then we're going to talk about how to strategize for attending a conference. We'll also discuss some of the mistakes that folks make and how to avoid those mistakes, and the most important piece, following up. So let's get started. A few networking essentials. First of all, you really, really want to make a good first impression, and that has everything to do with how you appear. Now, there's no uniform, there's no one particular thing that you should wear in order to make that great impression. I think it's great advice to say that you should be yourself so that you can appear confident, but you do want to dress up a little bit. In a lot of situations, throwing a blazer over, a dress shirt or a blouse can really just sort of elevate your look a little bit, make you appear very professional. And it's a nice way to add sort of that polished look to whatever it is that you've chosen to wear. So dress up. Pay really close attention to the details of your appearance. So things like, whether your shoes are clean, make sure that you're looking well groomed, those kinds of things. And you also want to pay attention to your body language. So when you are meeting new people, trying to approach them with a bright face, eye contact, smile, look approachable, have your shoulders back and decent posture so that you look like you are open to chatting with someone new. You look like you would be a pleasant person to talk to. That's step one. The next piece is, particularly at conferences, everyone is very much there for the same purpose as you, to learn new things and to meet new people. And so that means that being prepared to interact with those people, to make some connections, and then to follow up with those connections is so important. If you have business cards, bringing a stack of business cards with you wherever you go, or making sure that you are prepared to exchange digital business cards with whoever you might meet. Either way, you want someone to be able to walk away with your contact information. Especially if you've had a great conversation, there might be some opportunity for some follow-up. You're going to build a relationship with this person. You don't want to walk away and realize the next day, oh, I can't remember that person's name. I'm never going to be able to get in touch with them again. It's also really smart to bring your resume, or to at least have digital copies of your resume brushed up, tailored, ready to send out, because you never know who you might meet. Lots of folks use conferences as opportunities to recruit, especially junior level employees, for projects, for their company, whatever that might be. And so if someone asks you for your resume, You don't want to keep them waiting for 48 hours before you can send it to them. You want to have something on hand, have something that has been recently updated, something you feel really proud of, and you want that to be ready to go. And last but not least, your elevator pitch. So you've probably heard about an elevator pitch before. The entire premise is that it's a very short introduction to who you are, what you do, and what you care about. And the point is that it's so short that you could give it in an elevator in the time it takes for someone to walk in, introduce themselves to you. You meet, you say, here's who I am, here's my deal. The elevator doors open. And when that person walks out of the elevator, they have a strong sense of that person they met in the elevator. Okay. With this one, I do have an example. So this might be my elevator pitch. I am an enthusiastic career coach and educator committed to empowering migrants to Canada by coaching them through career transitions and leveraging my relationship building and communication skills. Now, I am probably never, very rarely, I guess, going to deliver this entire very long sentence at once. However, having all of this in my head means that I can pull out pieces of it as it comes up in conversation. I'm very prepared to introduce myself. If someone asks me what I do, if someone asks me about, the core values of my business, I am ready to address those things. And having some key words in there. For example, most people I know would probably describe me as enthusiastic. Even if you've never met me before, you're seeing me now, you can see that I've got a lot of energy. I'm really happy to be here to talk to you about networking skills. Pretty much a defining characteristic of me. I'm enthusiastic. So that is something that I want people to know about me. I also love having things like empowering migrants. The coaching piece is very important to me. I know that I've got two of my top skills in there, relationship building and communication. So again, having an elevator pitch that is crafted, that you have put some thought and intention into in your back pocket means that you have a few key phrases that you can easily pull out when you're meeting new people to help them get a strong sense of who you really are. All right, let's talk about strategy. So, conferences are often really big events. They might be kind of overwhelming. There are often concurrent sessions, which means that lots of different things are happening at the same time. Sometimes they include things like trade fairs, where there will be hundreds of booths set up in an enormous space. There are so many opportunities at a conference to be exposed to different parts of an industry, to meet new people, vendors. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So being prepared is crucial so that you don't just show up at the conference and feel overwhelmed, unprepared, and then walk away with really nothing to take away from it. So you want to prepare yourself by looking at the listed exhibitors and then also taking a look at the list of presentations. Now, it can be really great to identify what your priorities are for the conference. Are there one or two presentations that you really want to catch? Are there a few exhibitors maybe at a trade fair that you would really, really like the opportunity to check out? Those are things that you want to prioritize. And it might be a little bit tricky depending on the schedule of the conference, depending on, if maybe multiple events are happening at the same time. So being thoughtful about that is really important. Other thing that you can do is follow people who are organizing the conference on social media, on LinkedIn, and people will often post on LinkedIn that they're planning to attend the conference. Now, if you are a smart job seeker, if you are a smart networker, there are probably some people in your network that you would really like the opportunity to meet. If you are paying attention, you might see, oh, this person that is a manager at a company that I'm very interested in working at is going to be at this conference. I'm going to pay attention to his LinkedIn feed to see if he drops any hints about events at the conference he might be attending. Maybe he is presenting at the conference and I can attend his presentation. There might be opportunities there for you to connect with someone, whether it's a person or a company that you're interested in. And that can be a real jumping off point for building a relationship that could lead to so many opportunities. So the important thing to remember here is just to plan your approach. Have a sense of what the conference looks like, what you don't want to miss. And remember, you're not looking for a job, you're looking to connect. So don't go into this thinking, okay, I need to pin down that person so that I can get a job at that company. That's going to be a huge turnoff. You want to connect genuinely with that person, demonstrate care and curiosity about what they do, their company, how they're enjoying the conference. Build that relationship first, build a genuine connection, and you never know, a job might come out of that. I do want to make one note though. It is so important to plan your approach, and it is also so important to be flexible because you never know what might happen if you do really connect with someone. If you meet someone in a presentation and they invite you to an after hours event, or they invite you to go talk to someone else at one of the trade fair booths, you can't look at them and say, actually, I was planning to attend this other presentation. Goodbye, because that is going to damage that relationship. So demonstrate some flexibility. If you make some great connections and that takes you in a different path that maybe you didn't expect, as long as it still aligns with your goals for the conference, let it happen. Allow yourself to kind of seize the opportunities that present themselves. But honestly, one of the best ways to be open to that is also by being prepared, because then you know you're not missing anything too important. All right, that's kind of step one of strategizing. Step two is figuring out what kinds of events work best for you. Now, it is important to note that you're not just at a conference to network. You're also, of course, there to learn. And so having an understanding of what kinds of events you are going to get the most out of, both in terms of what you can learn and who you can meet, is very important so that you can sort of prioritize according to the schedule, okay? There are lots of different kinds of events at conferences. As I mentioned earlier, presentations, expo booths. Sometimes there are, resume and cover letter review sessions. There are mentoring sessions. Sometimes things almost like speed dating, but for professionals, things like that. There might be student industry mixers or lunches, book launches, after hours events. All of these things are beneficial, but very different. The vibe at, a more formal book launch is going to be very different than an after hours event that's in, a restaurant downtown. Where are you going to feel the most comfortable? Where are you going to feel at ease to mingle, to introduce yourself? Would you rather have sort of a topic kind of already determined by the presentation you just watched or the book launch that you attended? It's very easy to talk to someone when you've had a shared experience. And so if you've just sat next to someone, listened to the same presentation, it's very easy to turn to them and say, "Hi, I'm Keely. How did you enjoy the presentation?" That might be more comfortable for you in comparison to going to an after hours event or a lunch mixer where there's not as much opportunity to kind of find that common ground. That being said, Some people love a lunch. Some people love something that's a little bit more flexible, a little bit less specific in terms of, what you might get to talk about. And so again, be strategic. Think a little bit about what's going to work best for you, for your presentation style, for how comfortable you are talking about yourself, and plan accordingly. All right. The next question that you want to think in advance about is, what can you learn? So sometimes there are opportunities for real hands-on learning at conferences. Sometimes companies will bring new technology that you can actually test out. They might present that technology at a booth, at an expo or a trade fair. They might actually present that technology in, a talk or a presentation. And so if that is something that really interests you, making sure you're prioritizing that. Sometimes there are also short conferences, short courses, things that you can attend that will help you learn a really specific skill set. And as I said earlier, sometimes there are opportunities for you to learn about what it's like to navigate or to work professionally in this particular industry. Now, particularly if you are a student or recently graduated, if you are sort of like a junior professional in that way, those kinds of things can be really valuable as well. And so my suggestion would be to have some goals for yourself. Once you have taken a look at the conference program, once you have a sense of what kinds of opportunities there will be for you, think about what you want to learn from the conference. What do you want to get out of this? Maybe you want to learn about what it's like to work for a particular company. Maybe you want to learn about what it's like to be a project manager in this particular industry. There's so many things that you will need to sort of strategize to make sure you have the opportunity to learn about that and meet that goal. And so thinking in advance, making some plans in terms of what you want to attend, maybe who you want to meet, is really going to make sure that you get the most out of this experience. Now, this is the hardest part, I would say. How do you actually connect with people at a conference? It can be really easy to smile politely, make some small talk, shake hands, and walk away without really making a meaningful connection. And I think we all know what that experience is like, right? You walk away and you maybe think, I don't even really know what that person was about. I don't even remember their name 30 seconds later, right? You don't want people to have that impression of you. So, some ways to connect in a very genuine way. Demonstrate curiosity. Tell them about what you've learned. So, particularly if you have the chance to talk to someone who's done a presentation, express your interest in their topic. Ask an intelligent question. Show them that you were listening. That's a great way to make a genuine connection. Open yourself up as well to their questions. Sometimes if you ask a great question, they will reciprocate with a great question. Be ready to engage in that discussion. Be present. So don't be thinking, what am I going to say next? If they're talking, listen actively, pay attention to what they're saying, be present in the moment so that you can really genuinely respond and just kind of go where the conversation takes you. And then always find a way to follow up. I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that follow-up is one of the most important pieces. If you have spent all of this time strategizing about attending this conference, preparing yourself, if you have expended all of the mental and social and emotional and intellectual energy at the conference, meeting people, learning new things, putting yourself maybe in some uncomfortable situations, you don't want all of that to go to waste by not having what you need to follow up. So getting business cards, getting contact information from the people that you're chatting with, making sure that they have your contact information as well, and then staying in touch. And if you have met someone at a conference, you have a great introduction to send a message to that person, let's say on LinkedIn or over email, that says, hey, so and so, we met at this conference. I really enjoyed your presentation on X, Y, and Z. And I chatted with you afterwards about one thing, right? You're reminding that person, we met at this conference. You and I had a great conversation. I would love to follow up. And that's where you perhaps suggest that you meet for coffee or you have a virtual catch up. There's so many ways that you can sort of solidify that relationship and make sure that you stay in touch. You don't want all of that effort to go to waste. So be thoughtful in the moment, get that person's contact information, state your intent to follow up, and then follow through with the follow up. All right. Some common mistakes that people make at conferences. As I said earlier, it can be very easy to chat with people without really saying anything. So, knowing your elevator pitch, having a good sense of why you're there and what your goals are, that can help you communicate clearly with the people you meet at a conference and really confirm a connection that you make with them. So knowing and being able to articulate your professional goals, making a really great first impression by dressing appropriately, taking notes, making sure that you have contact information, that you can follow up with people in a thoughtful and intelligent manner. All of those things are going to be crucial. Don't make the mistake of letting those things fall off of your priority list, because it's going to make it harder for you to really get something out of a conference. Last but not least, I cannot say this enough, don't ask for a job. This can be hard. Sometimes all you really want is a job. I mentioned earlier, sometimes you're attending a conference as a student or a recent grad. And of course, if you're in that situation, you want to work in your field. You're excited about opportunities. But asking directly for a job can be really off-putting. And particularly in Canadian culture, it's really important to sort of emphasize the relationship first, rather than sort of that very direct asking for a job. Instead, remember, everyone is important. You never know who might have a job to offer you, right? Focus on getting to know them, being curious, asking thoughtful questions, being very genuine with what you share about yourself. And maybe someday, or maybe tomorrow, that person might have a job to offer you. Let it happen naturally as the result of a genuine connection, a great first impression, and that's going to get you a job much more easily, much faster than asking someone directly without going through the effort of building that relationship first. Okay, that's all we've got for you today. But if you want more like this, we are running a Breakthrough Bootcamp, which is specifically targeted towards immigrants and newcomers to Canada who are hoping to break into their industry, make sure that their credentials are recognized and they are not underemployed. And that is happening June 27th and 28th from 7 to 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We would really, really love to see you there. And you can take a look at our website, workspark.ca, for more information. Thanks for joining us today.